This is Voice of the Bus, Mark Johnson, and you're listening to the Folsom Frenzy Podcast.
Welcome to the Folsom Frenzy Podcast. My name is Jake. I'm here with Chase, Topher, and Sreyas. And guys, this is a bittersweet one. Finished up the regular season with 9 wins with a blowout win against Oklahoma State. How are we feeling, guys? What do you guys think of that game?
It's cathartic too, right? I think we've used that word a lot this year. Very cathartic. So it was nice being on the other side of one of these, don't you think? I mean, where you pull all your starters with 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter, up 52 against an FBS opponent, against a Power 5 opponent. I know Oklahoma State's not doing so good, and they got some major reckoning to do with what their roster and what their coaching situation looks like next year. But man, was that nice. Never felt close, even though that second quarter was terrible. Very comfortable win after it was kind of chilly, right? You guys agree? It was kind of chilly at the start of the game, but then the sun came out, blue skies. It was wonderful. Chase, what did you think? You came back.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this was nice and cathartic because if you were at that Alamo Bowl game where we were so excited to be in a bowl game finally, and it was after that devastating Washington loss, and to get absolutely nuked by Oklahoma State, but even worse, have the fans being absolutely horrible to all of us Buffs fans. Very, very nice to see us absolutely take them to the woodshed. I'm so glad we did not let them score at the end. I was really kind of worried there. They let the clock run out, but not a huge fan of that. But overall, like super impressive effort. Can't be upset about anything. Fun-ish game in Folsom. And it was nice to see Prime. I don't know if you guys saw the video, but the halftime speech where he said, "Hey, you guys are getting complacent. Like, we got to bury these guys. Like, there's a difference. Like, when more people when we dominate like this, more people go to the NFL." And he's totally right. Like don't let off the gas or let your foot off the gas. And then they turned it around and right off the jump, they were dominant, start to finish. So really, really great game. I know, the weekend as a whole, a little disappointing, but you can't be upset about this. And I hope it is a rivalry, but Oklahoma State, we tweeted this out of the account. Could have been anyone. I don't know who tweeted it, but Oklahoma State did not look like a team worthy of being our rival. Very giving Colorado State vibes. So hopefully it stays that way. I'd love to beat them every year in the way that Utah kind of did it to us, but it can't be upset about that game. Really fun. Glad the weather got nice and good way to end the season in Folsom.
Yeah, that was great. And you know what? I'm going to take a massive victory lap here because both of y'all said that it was going to be way closer, that this Oklahoma State was going to score on us. And I told you the only question of the over-under is whether or not the Buffs could cover it by themselves. Answer is they didn't, but they got pretty close. All right. 63.5 was the over under. We hit 52 and I'll take that all day, every day. Second quarter was ugly. There were some things in the offense that they threw at us that kind of, made us look a little less good, but you got to just feel really good that that's how you end the season in Folsom, right? 52 to a fat goose egg with no doubts about how far this team has come.
Thank you for going third before absolutely torching us so that we could give our takes before you told us how wrong we were last week.
I'm going to jump in on the torching and also take another victory lap for Topher and I. Topher correctly predicted the win totals for the Buffs this season at 9, and I was off one game for the Buffs on predicting every single game. But I love that. I think this was probably the first complete game they've played from an offensive and defensive perspective, other than the run game. The run game still wasn't clicking, but was just what a phenomenal blowout win. Moving on, guys. Someone talk about this this blip here. For those listening, in our notes we have ESPN camera and crowd control. I wasn't a part of the notes session, so enlighten me, guys.
So real quick, before Topher goes, I was sitting the first 3 quarters on the north side of the stadium. And Jake, I think before the start of the game, you pointed out that the student section looked like a 2013 student section. Yeah. That's understandable. It's 10 a.m. the day after Thanksgiving with the students out, 28-degree kickoff, right? 28 degrees at kickoff. Come on. Of course it's going to be light.
I caveated this. I replied, and I said, for those haters, students are away. So don't worry.
There's plenty of reason why it was in my opinion, totally excusable this happened. Of course, everyone's a little deflated about losing to Kansas, and it doesn't have that same context anymore. But yeah, from the north side looking south, there were basically 2 sections that were empty of the student section. And Topher pointed out, going back and watching the game film, ESPN kind of did a good job of masking that, didn't they?
Jake, for those that saw that tweet, they were like, what is Jake talking about? The student section looks awesome. And it did. Because on TV, ESPN was very intentional. Very intentional. We're going to show the student sections that's directly behind the bench, which they filled out really, really well. And they filled that out really, really well because the crowd control was purposefully filtering students away from those empty sections. All right. Those empty sections also happen to fall right under the shadow of our giant new scoreboard. So if you just a wide angle of the crowd, it looks like there's dark there. And most of our crowd wears black anyways. It looks like we completely sold out the stadium. And the announcers even said, this is a sellout crowd. They said that like 3 or 4 times. This is a sellout crowd. Look at this crowd. They showed out today. It was awesome. So huge shout out to ESPN for making us look awesome. Shout out to the students that did show up. And you know, it's tough to fill the stadium on those game days. It's right after Thanksgiving during break.
Did you guys ever imagine a time where a national TV outlet would be caping for us like this? That is so cool.
Yeah.
That is one of the coolest outcomes of the Prime era, and it's only going to continue moving forward. I am so excited for that.
Yeah, and I will add that it did actually fill in quite nicely, I'll say. And I know it's people moving from other seats down to the student section because it's slightly better seats for some people. So it looked quite a bit better. My tweet was 10 minutes before the game, and then probably at the 10 minutes into the game mark, it looked pretty good, actually. And you'll see actually in our intro video of our podcast, I stopped the pan towards the student section where there weren't any students. I did the same thing on cropping it. But yeah, guys, let's kind of keep moving. Do we want to talk officiating next? Chase, you're nodding your head. Do you want to kick it off?
I think Topher's main point is they were very fast with the whistles and clearly trying to control the game and not let it get out of hand, which is a shame because apparently no other games in college football were doing that with all the fights and the flag planting and the Sun Devils putting the pitchfork in the Arizona A. I mean, absolute cinema. And if we're going to get a rivalry going with Oklahoma State, they should have let us do it and let it get carried away a little bit. But it's okay. We're not quite there yet. What an insane week for college football generally. But Topher, you want to talk more specifically about what they did to keep things under wraps?
Yeah, on the rewatch, I think number 44 on their linebacker got 2 unnecessary roughness calls. The first one was where he threw Shador into a chair. Folsom is one of those stadiums that has very, very narrow sidelines. It's pretty uncommon in college football that the sidelines and the stands are that close to the field, which makes Folsom one of the best venues in all of sports, to be clear. But that also makes it very dangerous when you run onto the sideline, that there's a lot of equipment there. There's a lot of people there, and you get thrown into stuff or run into stuff really easily. The moment he was on the sideline, threw the flag. He had another one where the guy barely stepped out, and it was a late hit, and I didn't think it warranted a flag. It was also right away, right? So I think this this crew was told, last week was very chippy and got out of control, and there were cheap shots, and people were, stepping on each other and all that kind of stuff. And the Big 12 was like, absolutely not. All eyes are on Colorado. We have to keep these games under control. So shout out to the Big 12 for this reffing crew. I really like this reffing crew. I think they did a pretty good job of controlling the game.
Yeah, nothing to add there. It was nice. And Topher, after your breakdown last week, pointing out some of the missed, well, not some, but the missed calls on pretty much every play, right? It was pretty much every snap from scrimmage. And there's a reason why that Kansas team, which, albeit have a very good running back, they do have good line, but they made our run defense, which was otherwise good all season long, including shutting down Ollie Gordon, completely shutting him down. He did nothing, right? He had 10 yards?
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. I mean, completely.
Although I think he is a really talented back.
He's talented.
That.
Yeah. He's talented. He's talented, and he's behind a terrible OL there, and hopefully if he ends up in the portal, he finds another destination that can protect for him better and gives him better opportunities. But notwithstanding, it's wild to think that last year's Doak Walker Award winner got completely shut down by the same run defense that was getting completely Swiss cheesed at Kansas. And I get that there's you can make that case about any game. Oh, the officiating this, officiating that. But come on, when you're not going to call holding, or not going to call blatant holding, and it literally is going to affect the way that the game's called. Because if they were doing it on every play and they keep getting big chunk plays on every down, why would they stop doing it? And frankly, they never punted once the whole game. And all of a sudden, you're expecting me that's an anomaly, right? That was such an anomaly that there wasn't anything else going on there. So, I don't know. That's a little sour grapes from Sreyas. So, what can I say? I'm still a little bummed about how that season ended for us. But hey, it was nice to see that game called in a way that, frankly, I think a lot of other games should have been called.
Yeah, let's with that, you're kind of talking about the defense, Reyes. Let's jump right in. We can start with the defense. Just stay on that topic. Obviously, they shut him out. I don't have the stats with me. I don't know if you guys do, but what were you guys' thoughts? Obviously, a really complete game from the defense, but yeah, I'll open it up to you guys.
Oklahoma State did not have 100 yards of total offense until well into the fourth quarter on that last drive. That is absolute domination. We're not going to throw Ollie Gordon under the bus, and I hope he enjoyed the weather and the views this past weekend. But I just they had nothing going for them. Their quarterback looked terrible. He had 2 interceptions. And I mean, the contrast is crazy between the Colorado offense and the Oklahoma State offense. But it really felt like watching a Colorado team from years before, watching Oklahoma State try to move the ball. And we were everywhere on them. Our corners were playing lights out. Even when he did manage to throw the ball, they were always on the play. Or for the most part, I was really impressed by this defense. And what could you possibly say when they scored 0 points? And really the only time they ever threatened to score was on that last drive in total garbage time with all of our starters out. So, it's just incredible.
Now, if we take for a second what I was just saying about the officiating having a big impact on the Kansas game out of the question, and just look at this as an opportunity for this defense to prove to themselves one last time during the regular season that they were better than what they showed in Kansas. They stepped up and they did the job, right? I love that from them. It shows you that this program is about accountability. They could have just gone and taken the low road that I just took, saying that the officiating cost us an opportunity to go to the Big 12 championship. And frankly, this is me going against what I said last week, because I remember last week I specifically said that you can't blame the officiating. But realistically, if you're going to call some of the holdings that you do, it does drastically affect the outcome of the game. But you know what? Our defense didn't use that as an excuse at all. They listened to Sreyas from last week where it's like, oh, you were going to lose either way. And they just flat out decided that they were going to control the game in the most dominating fashion that I've seen a CU team put up against another Power 5 team in my time being a CU fan. That was absolutely incredible. Like Chase said, that final drive, I just looked it up. Final drive was 16 plays, 88 yards. And they actually ran out the clock on it, which is wild, right? It was a 9-minute drive, and they ran out the clock on it. But those 86 yards were more yardage than they had in the entire game leading up to that point. That says it all. It was incredible. And I hope that we see this type of defense at the bowl game, but then I hope that this becomes a hallmark of this program moving forward. That'd be very, very exciting, and it bodes well to our continued competitiveness and hopefully our rise to a perennial contender.
Defense had a bounce back. What a game. And they played with some nastiness. They played with some pride, and they played with we're going to go punch you in the mouth. and we're going to let you know right away you don't belong on this field with us. You can see it from the first drive. There was just this tenacity, this fired up, locked in nature that everyone was running perfect run fits. And I'm not impressed with this Oklahoma State O-line at all. Like they were not good. Couldn't really move anybody on the run blocks. Block Bully had the game of his life, just absolutely eating up blocks, not giving an inch from the line of scrimmage. Gordon had a tough game, and that is a direct result because our defense came to play. And I think it was very clear from Livingston's standpoint. So, like, I don't want them to score at all, period. End of sentence. These guys are not talented enough to deserve to score in Folsom. And I'm so glad they executed that way.
Yeah, domination. And I just really no notes. Like nothing really could have been improved. A total full game. I think Jake is having some technical issues, so we can bring him back on defense if he wants. But let's move to offense. I'll just give the stats real quick. Shedeur Sanders, 438 yards, 5 passing touchdowns. He did have 1 interception. And, where to start on the wide receiver core, right? LeJontay Wester, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns, had an absolute game. Unfortunately, he will not be our Q Wealth Management Offensive Player of the Game because we are on the full-on close the deal for Travis. Give him all the awards. We want to give him awards. The Heisman voters want to give him awards. And so Travis with 10 receptions, 116 yards, 3 touchdowns. Oh, and by the way, he had an interception on defense, which we forgot to mention. So, it's over. We called it 3 episodes ago, but really fun to see all those Boise State fans really upset on Twitter, and we certainly love engaging with them. 34 total receptions for the offense, 29 rushing attempts. Really never got the rushing game going. I guess if you were to give a downside to this past game, it would be our inability to establish the run, even though their defense, it was kind of the inverse of the Kansas game, right? We had something like 40 minutes of time of possession. They had 20 until that last drive, which really kind of changed things. But we absolutely dominated time of possession as well, which was nice to see the bounce back on that after Kansas. So, Topher, Sreyas, what do you think about, obviously the inability to establish the run, but also the absolute dominance everywhere?
Just felt like our O-line wasn't getting a very good push on our run blocking. And I don't know if it's just like a lack of experience or a lack of execution. It just looked like we would run a zone and we give up the inside guy. Like we have to hit him and we get cut down from our cutback lanes, or we'd miss on a stunt and the guy would get in the backfield and we'd have first contact in the backfield and we wouldn't get anything. So I just feel like this O-line really missed as far as the run assignments down the road in the second half. We definitely did do a better job of, changing the run, executing a little bit better. We got more people touches, and I feel like we got a little more creative. I hated that we tried to run the option. I don't think we're an option team. That was stupid. We should take that play and shoot it into the sun. Bottom line is, I would love to see a little bit more consistency of us pushing guys downfield when we run the ball. I didn't see that consistency on Friday, and I just, that worries me going into the bowl game. I'll be honest.
Yeah. It was nice seeing Michael Welch get some touches and get some yards. I know he's been injured quite a bit this year. It's kind of unfortunate seeing Isaiah Gustav kind of go out and then Michael Welch get back at the same time. But we got a lot of years ahead with those guys, and I think they have potential to be pretty good pieces moving forward. Now that said, 52 is an amazing number to put up. I know 45 of those were offensive. We also had the DJ McKinney pick 6 kind of contributing to the 52. But we've pointed this out before. This team, like against Utah especially, right? This team goes through or went through stretches where their offense would suddenly not be effective, right? We never saw the type of game from CU this year that we saw Kansas do to us last week, right? We had 4 or 5 punts in the second quarter alone. It was just ugly. It was ugly football. It was like soccer. We were kicking the ball to them and they were kicking the ball back to us. And you hate to see that. And I think I'm guessing that not being able to establish the run and dominate that side of the game makes a huge, huge difference. And it's the same explosiveness that allowed us to win the Baylor game where we were down big late and be able to just bomb the ball down the field and get big chunk plays. But it's also the same type of thing where start off slow against Texas Tech, start off slow against Utah. And luckily we didn't start off slow against Oklahoma State because, frankly, our defense wouldn't allow us to start slow. I think our first 3 or 4 possessions were all either at midfield or on plus territory. So shout out to the defense for creating offense that way. But I think for this program moving forward, just like we were talking about stopping the run on the defensive side, we do, especially in the post-Shador era, need to figure out a way to do something consistently in the run game. Because 29 carries, okay, I get that 10 of those were Shador. Not all of those were even runs. Some of those were sacks. But the final stats being 29 carries for 33 yards, you're not going to be able to control the clock and dominate with that kind of performance. So I think with the bowl game, you were correct. Like, depending on who we play, that could definitely be a concern, Topher. I don't disagree with you, but just looking forward to next year and on, year 3, we're going to have to see a major step up. Otherwise, we could regress as a team. And I don't expect us to regress, but if we do, that could be a big reason why.
What does it say about Pat Shurmur that even the defense is scoring points? He is such a mastermind that the defense is finding ways. He's creating offense while we're on defense. So I think he deserves all the credit. I think the option was absolutely brilliant, if maybe slightly misguided. But I just wanted to give my guy some flowers before Jake goes and makes it all personal for our guy, Pat.
Real quick before I jump in the offense, did you guys talk about the DJ McKinney pick 6? Did you talk about the celebration?
The Egg Bowl celebration?
Hilarious. He goes and pees on the football in the end zone, basically pisses on his former team because he's a former Oklahoma State Cowboy. So got to bring that up.
Yeah. I mean, you know the infamous history of that celebration, right, Jake? With the Ole Miss Mississippi State game in 2019. Yeah. I'm glad we waited until we were up 50 plus to do that. Yeah. And not do it on a game time touchdown.
That's how you start a rivalry, though. Those kinds of personal fouls is how you start a rivalry, and I'm 100% endorsing it.
Facts.
Yeah.
To be clear, Mata would have made that extra point regardless.
That is true. That's a whole other episode we got to get to. Topher, you really got the best. He didn't miss once.
So Mata now holds the record for most consecutive field goal makes, and that record was since we backed Mata on our podcast.
Interesting how when you believe in people,
special teams.
When you believe in people, Mata gets that streak, and Pat Shurmur scores 52 points on his own. That's why you believe in people, everyone.
When you let go of hell, good things happen.
Topher, we got to also shout out Topher on this one because Topher's he got us posting that clip of Topher making the field goal. Topher's got a big leg. He's a semi-pro kicker, guys. Like, he's no joke. That lit a fire. We know that lit a fire in Mata because Mata let us know that it lit a fire in him. And we're so glad. He's such a dog, man. I love that mentality. Some random person, schmo, whatever, calls me out for thinking they're better, and then he sets the record. He ties the record for most consecutive field goals made. That's amazing.
Listen, Mata, whatever it takes.
The fifth leading CU podcast calls you out, and that's how you know it's time to shine.
There's 4 podcasts over us?
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm just assuming.
Actually, that might be kind of accurate.
DNVR. No.
Yeah,
anyways, I do want to build on the special teams here. Our special team coverage was really, really good on Friday. And a special shout out to Tajay McCoy, who set standard. He had 3 tackles that absolutely would lay the wood. So it was really, really great to see that that has been such an improvement this season.
Agreed. we're all laughing at the side chat here. For once, I'm not the one with the bad internet. Can you believe that?
Or the
Wait.
fire alarm beeping.
Or the fire alarm, or who? Like what number of mishaps have I had technically? How ironic! Like the guy who is the professional
The rocket scientist.
the literal like sound engineer. Like,
Why are we the 5th CU podcast we want?
oh wait, there goes my fire alarm again. No, I'm just
Oh
kidding.
man.
Anyways,
Thanks
Tajay
for
McCoy
listening to us just struggle.
Tajay McCoy was awesome. That one hit he had, I don't remember which one in the order of the big hits that he had, but there was one where on the north side of the stands you could hear the crunch, and everyone in the whole stadium goes, "Oh!" I love that. I love
Electric.
That is clearly. You gotta attribute some of that to coaching, because think about how bad that special teams unit was in the first 4 games, at least the first 4 games. I mean, they almost cost us the Baylor game completely. We almost lost that game because of special teams and needed a Hail Mary to secure it, even though we outgained Baylor by over 100 yards at least. And so to go from that and then to end the season on that kind of a note, and I get that we still need to – we got to get the ball out of the end zone. We got to find some way to do that next year. That is definitely a big problem. And we don't have anyone on the roster right now that can do that with consistency at altitude, which is mind-boggling. So that absolutely needs to be a thing. We need to find a way to just not even be like having coverage on kickoffs, and punts is a whole other thing. Punt coverage has been pretty good, I think, for the most part, but it was nice to see Tajay McCoy step in there, and Ben Finiseth has done that a few times this year too. It's been really nice seeing that. That's good. That's coaching to me for sure. That's good discipline.
Yeah, to add to that really quick, I hope they hire a special teams coach next season, because every game has been a special teams mishap here or there. This game, I was a little frustrated that they burned those 2 timeouts, I think, in the first half, because they weren't ready to get the punt team out there. Or you had that one where they got a penalty on 4th down to make it 4th and 1. They were going to go for it. Then you had a false start. I know that's not special teams, but it's like silly things like that. We got to clean up if we want to be a powerhouse football team at some point. But yeah, I think in general, the special teams is actually pretty solid today.
Yep. We're heading in the right direction, guys. This program bears almost no resemblance. It's just crazy, because I remember at the start of the season, I specifically said, I think after the Nebraska game, oh, here we go again. This looks like the same old Buffs. This is not the same old Buffs at all. And the fact that they get better as the season goes on, or got better as the season goes on this year, is a huge sign that we're headed in the right direction. The CU teams of the last 15 years, other than, well, actually, you could even say a 2016 team kind of regressed as the season went on. They were not playing their best ball at the end of the year. They were kind of eking out wins. That UCLA game, they eked that one out. Stanford game, they eked that one out. The defense won them that game. Kenneth Olabode, who we had on the pod last year, got that big fumble return for a touchdown against Utah. I mean, we were not dominating teams like we did at the start of the season, even in 2016. But this year, this was so different. And maybe strength of schedule has something to do with it. I won't downplay that side of it. But other than the Kansas game, this team really did take care of business for the most part during pretty much all of conference play after the Baylor game.
And I think that's coaching, right? Like, you are finding ways to fix because this team is very talented. Like, we know this team is very talented. And so the coaching was helping find ways to fix the mental errors and the things that were holding back. And you don't see what happened at Nebraska happen later in the season, right? I really don't think so. I think this team was legitimately better at the end of the year. And so that gives me a lot of hope for, hey, I get it. Shador's leaving, Hunter's leaving, right? Like, it's going to hurt next season with the amount of talent that we're losing, but we know that the coaching staff is in place if we can keep them. And I know the coaching carousel is about to begin. I have to think Livingston's going to be a hot commodity for maybe a G5 kind of head coaching position. I would, that's my guess.
If he wants it,
right? And he's got a great thing going for him here, and he could definitely, if he sticks with it, become a head coach at a P5 program straight out of CU, I think. But regardless, like those are good problems to have. If you have to be replacing coaches because they are so good and so productive, so be it. Like, that's totally fine. My second team is Penn State, went there for my grad degree. When Manny Diaz left, it sucked. It was sad, but it was also emblematic of we've got something going in the right direction with our defense, right? And so if that happens, I trust Prime to find the next guy. But I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We still got games left in the season, but
And CU fans need to be ready for that because it'll happen. I'd be shocked if our coordinators were the same two guys next year. So that's a good point.
But also, I want to point out something, which is we really did have a target on our back all season. We truly, truly did. If you go look at the way that every other team and every other fan base, especially on the road, were juiced, absolutely juiced to face Prime, Shedeur, Travis, and CU. And we still came out 9-3. That is another thing that bodes very, very well for this program moving forward. It'll be interesting to see how ASU next year, ASU has a lot left to play for this year. That is a very talented team. They could make some serious noise. They're hot. But it'll be interesting to see how they handle being the hunted next year instead of the hunter, because they caught a lot of teams off guard, I think, this year, because they were picked dead last. They were picked dead last below CU, below BYU, below everyone else, below Houston even. And they are now in control of their own destiny to go to the college playoff, right? That is incredible. But they didn't have the same kind of target on their back. Absolutely could not have possibly had the same target on their back that CU did. CU had it. People gave Shedeur all sorts of hate in the preseason about saying that CU is everyone's Super Bowl. And then everyone reacted to it in a visceral way and proved his point. And every fan base, including Nebraska, they proved it. This was their Super Bowl. This was their game where they're going to have the most eyeballs in the program. And to come out with all of that, and a lot of people predicted that that's why CU would struggle, because even though they were clearly talented on paper, some people said, they're going to have the target on their back week after week. And usually a program actually has to have proven something before that happens. So there's no way they can get over it. We did. We ended up 7-2 in conference, 9-3. We have a chance for 10 wins, guys. 10 wins with the target on your back in year 2 of a program that was rebuilding from ash, right? ASU was a rough situation, right? Herm Edwards left a mess. He left probation. He left broken recruiting classes, all sorts of problems that Dillingham had to inherit. But when we go back and look at the FPI differential, and I made a post on Twitter earlier today about this, but the FPI differential between when Prime showed up at CU and now in 2024, 2 seasons, we improved by 29.8 in the FPI rankings. FPI metric. This is not the rankings, but the metric. The next closest team that improved by that much since 2022 is Indiana with 23. And then after that, it goes to Miami with 17.8. So the amount of improvement is staggering. This is one of the people really don't understand how bad this program was. This was a program that was headed in a very, very dark direction. And now all of a sudden, all this positive momentum is happening, and it's happening even with the target on our back. So look out, man. Look out. As long as the portal is jumping this year, which it will, I can't wait until we get to talk a little bit more about some of that portal news that comes out very soon. But this is just the beginning.
With that, let's I think those are great points, Sreyas. I want to jump in and add to it, and then you just nailed it. So that's great. Let's jump to the Q Wealth Management players of the game. Pay some bills here. Thank you to Q Wealth Management for sponsoring us. Visit qwealthmanagement.com to learn more. For offense, we have Travis Hunter secured his Heisman, 3 touchdowns, 116 yards. Absolute baller. The catches he made were absolutely phenomenal. Also a pick, I know not on the offensive side, but Travis Hunter absolutely balled out. Defense, we have DJ McKinney. He also balled out, had that pick 6, had that hilarious touchdown celebration. Had a great game overall against his former team. And then honorable mentions, Shiloh Sanders, block bully, and who's this? Nikai Hill Green, guys? Is that a typo?
I switched that. Yeah, my bad.
Cool. And Nikai Hill Green. And then special teams, Tajay McCoy. Topher, do you want to expand on any of those?
No.
Cool.
Hey, shout out to Wester, though.
Self-explanatory.
We got to shout out LeJontay Wester. LeJontay Wester had a massive game. He had, 175 yards and 2 touchdowns on top of that. He's going to get some NFL looks, guys. That guy looks like a next-level player to me. I'm excited to see what a pro, or not a program, but an NFL team can do with him in the slot. Make him do some like Brandon Cooks type things. I'm excited. He's really proven himself. I think that he made the most of his 5th year here transferring to CU, and I hope that other potential 5th year seniors are watching and see that they have that opportunity.
Yeah, I hope he gets drafted. I think he's a borderline draft pick, but he's balled out. And also shout out to Jimmy Horn. Just want to give a brief shout out there. It sucks that he hasn't been able to play because he balled out at the beginning of the season. Hopefully he gets drafted as well.
We quietly had a lot of injury issues, didn't we? Right, between Augusta, Amarian Miller, and then Jimmy Horn.
Hayes, Dayon Hayes.
So
the O-line was pretty solid for injuries. But, yeah, I mean, D-line was a little bit banged up with Cokes. And look at that. I mean, that just goes to show how stacked this roster was, and people didn't see at the beginning of the season.
Yeah. Last year we did lose Travis, who is our entire, unbelievable.
But we lost him, too, this year for half a game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. At second half of Arizona, too. Yeah.
So I just want to quickly lodge my protest, by the way, to the QF Management Player of the Game for defense not being Travis Hunter, the QF Management Player of the Game for special teams not being Travis Hunter, because
he didn't do it. He wasn't in on special teams.
It doesn't matter. Mata got to kick as many PATs as he did because Travis kept scoring touchdowns. So that is how he impacted special teams. And all the Boise State fans, please enjoy. I'm living for your tears. It's pathetic at this point. It's obsessive. I feel bad for. I never ever would I cheer against a Boise State player winning a Heisman. In the same way that you guys should never ever cheer against a Colorado player. Both of them are having phenomenal seasons, but it's time to move on. And I hope they get the help that they desperately need. But
one more shout out for that. One more shout out. Cristiano Palazzo with an extra point at the end of the game there. That's an outgoing senior walk-on. Love seeing outgoing senior walk-ons get action in wins at the end of the season on senior day instead of in losses. That's a wonderful change.
Yeah.
Guys, let's get into it. Travis Hunter, negative 10,000. Negative 10,000. Is that his recent odds?
Bet
that's
bet 10,000. Bet 10,000 to win 100 because Jake clearly does not feel super comfortable with the betting lines. So that is insane. That is an insane favorite. The odds for the sun to come up tomorrow are not those kinds of odds. Like it's a done deal. And so really exciting. I'm excited. I don't know if this was BS or not on Twitter, but seeing that they were going to start renovating the Champions Center to add the second Heisman trophy plaque, they can count on it. It's a signed, sealed, and delivered done deal. So looking forward to that. The only question is, will Shador also make the trip out to New York as a potential Heisman finalist? Probably not, but we're obviously biased, but what an incredible year he had. And the Johnny
biased.
Unitas.
Look at the stats.
But the Johnny
Unitas,
he has more touchdowns.
Yeah, he has more touchdowns than Dylan Gabriel, more passing yards than Dylan Gabriel. Just Dylan Gabriel has a better QBR. That's it. But you look at him on the field, he's such a better quarterback than Dylan Gabriel. And I'm using him, instead of Cam Ward. But Miami lost, so Cam Ward sucks too.
And who's getting drafted first? Who's getting drafted first? They're all quarterbacks. I know there's some nuance there, but if they were truly the best quarterbacks this year, you would think that they'd get drafted before our guy. So I hope he gets the invite. I think it'd be a cool moment to see them both up there and then Travis winning it. But very exciting either way, right? No matter what happens in the offseason, you can never take away the Heisman from the program. That will be with us forever. So
Really can we just stop and sit here for a second? CU is going to have a Heisman winner, a second Heisman winner. Sorry. That is unreal. You say that to a fan 5 years ago, 2 years ago, whatever. Even a year, well, I guess a year ago you could see it. But that is unreal. That is so cool that we have a Heisman winner. That's just like the cherry on top for the season. I mean, 9-10 wins is a great season for CU. Sucks we didn't make it to the Big 12 championship game. But to have a Heisman winner, that is so cool.
Yep.
I remember the first time I was in the Champions Center. I think, Jake, you were probably there. Chase, you may have been there too.
Yep.
walking through that hallway where they have Rashawn's Doak Walker Award, the Outland Trophy, the Heisman Trophy, Rashawn's Heisman Trophy. There's a number of other. I mean,
maybe a Remington in there.
Yeah, CU's well decorated. Was there a butt kiss in there too? I think Alfred Williams won the butt kiss, didn't he?
Yeah, possibly.
So
I'd have to look that up.
CU's are quite a decorated program, especially because of what they did during the McCartney years in the 90s. Travis Hunter is going to end up with his own wing in the Champion Center. When you look at how many, like all the All-American, he's a surefire All-American again. He might be a triple All-American because I think he was an all-purpose All-American last year. This year he's going to be offense, defense, and all-purpose.
And special teams based off my argument earlier.
Ding, so there you go. And then so the Thorpe that there is definitely some weird stuff going on there. I don't know. Caleb Downs is amazing though. I'll shout him out. He's probably actually going to win, and he may have won the Thorpe either way. Like that, what that guy does at Ohio State was very impressive. But man, for him to not be a finalist there, that's a whole other thing. But there is such a long list of accolades that Travis is about to accrue. He's going to end with his own wing, and that is going to be the Travis Hunter wing of the Champions Center. And many years from now, another thing that's amazing about this, I think Shedeur alluded to it during his press conference, but having Travis and Shedeur being advocates for the program and contributing to the NIL, right, with their huge signing bonuses and potentially their long careers. We saw Patrick Mahomes do that at Texas Tech, right? Patrick Mahomes was never on a good Texas Tech team. I think his senior year, maybe he wasn't even a senior there. His final year at Texas Tech, they were 5-7 with Cliff Kingsbury, and the year before that, they were 7-5. So it was never like a consistently winning program while he was there. But he has pumped a lot of money back into that program after he's left, and I'm excited to see Shedeur and Travis do that, not just because they're going to be stars at the next level, but because they're so marketable, right? They have learned from the best. One of the most marketable, one of the engines behind America's team, Deion Sanders. Basically, both of their dads, right? Travis and Deion, Coach Prime, they have a father-son-like relationship as well. And it's so exciting to see how far they fly and watch them pull our program up with them too.
One more quick comment on the Heisman, but we used to have a segment when we first started this podcast called Unhinged Tweet of the Week, and we would show a tweet from an opposing fan base that was the most obnoxious or totally unrealistic. And I don't know, maybe we'll bring it back in the off season or something, but my new favorite fake outrage at the program is how they're very upset that Travis Hunter is doing the Heisman pose after he does insane things in college football. It like the dumbest controversy ever, but excited to see Travis having fun with it and just like he's the most likable human being on the team, definitely now, but like just so likable. And if people would actually, watch any of the tons of content that is made about this team, they would understand that. So it's just a shame that people are trying to undermine what has been a phenomenal season for him. But very exciting, and it's a program that's not afraid. This is like Sreyas mentioned, this is a program that has won a ton of awards and been very prestigious at the top of college football, but not in recent memory. And that's why it's so, when we went and did that Champions Center tour, I remember looking at it and all thinking like, it's a shame that I never got to see this and it's all in the past. Like I'm proud of the history and like this is part of my history as a undergrad here, but not anything that I've ever got to experience or at least didn't remember experiencing when I was little. So really cool that like the good days are now in this program. And we'll do, I'm sure, tons of episodes this off season about, reviewing and thinking back about how special this season has been. But it's that, like Jake said, that is not something that just happens. A lot of great programs have never won a Heisman trophy. And the fact that we're going to have two, we're going to be one of those very select few that have more than one even is so special.
That's amazing. Just think about it, guys. 20 years from now, we're going to still, no matter what accolades come from this, right? Who knows what kind of heights that CU can reach under Coach Prime. Pretty much the sky's the limit. We can see that now. This is year 2. Massive, massive, massive program improvement And they have the ability now to even improve on some of the areas where they weren't even good. But we're still going to remember this season because this is when we had possibly number 1, number 2 in the NFL draft at the same time as a rebuilding program that was rebuilding from the rubble. And all those pictures and videos that we have watching Shedeur, watching Travis do crazy things, the one that I'll remember seeing in person, this was from a sad game. It was from the Stanford game last year. But that spin move that Travis had where he shook the DB or the linebacker out of his shoes on his way to a touchdown. I got that on video, and I'll never forget that, right? We got to experience that. How amazing is that? And in this day and age, right, what we have that our parents didn't have back in the 90s is our phones and our own personal memories of these things happening. We're not just leaning on other people. Like, these are personal memories for us that we get to keep with us for the rest of our lives. Jake, you sent us a list of some of those award winners. Looking through it, you want to mention some of those names? This is pretty impressive. I'm sure
I'll spin through it real quick. It'll be pretty brief. So Walter Camp Award, Rashaan Salam, also the only Heisman winner at CU as of today's date. Hopefully in less than a month, that'll be updated. Dick Butkus Award for Alfred Williams and Matt Russell. Doak Walker, Rashaan Salam. Jim Thorpe Award, Dion Figures and Chris Hudson. John Mackey Award, Daniel Graham, phenomenal tight end for CU. Ray Guy Award, Mark Mariscal. How do I pronounce his name? Did I get that right?
Yep.
And then William Campbell Trophy, John Hansen. And then solely, like, just this year already, you have the Paul Horning Award, Travis Hunter. Well, that was last year, I guess. He's probably going to get that again this year. And then Shedeur Sanders for the Johnny Unitas Award, which is an awesome award. Best quarterback in the country, and that's coming to CU. What world are we living in? So that's just a flavor.
Cordell Stewart didn't even win that. Like, Cordell Stewart didn't win that. Like, how special.
Hey, I think Travis
Cody
should
Hawkins.
be in the running. Yeah, Cody Hawkins. So I think didn't they rename the Campbell Trophy? That's the academic Heisman, right? I feel like Travis should be in the running for that too. Isn't he a 4.0 student?
Yeah.
Didn't they renamed it to something else though, didn't they? I can't remember what it was. Jim Hansen, by the way. Interesting story behind that guy. I think he ended up going to Oxford on the Rhodes Scholarship after CU. He was I believe he was an aerospace engineer because they display his Campbell Trophy in the new aerospace building. So I got to see that in person earlier this year. It was pretty cool. What a storied history. We have such a storied history, and now we're back, baby, after years of wandering the desert, unfortunately during our years in school and many of our childhoods.
Fortunately for most of our lifetime.
But we're back like the CU that our parents and our
Peggy.
friends' parents and oh my God, Peggy's seen it all. I'm so happy for her. Oh my God, we get to take her to a bowl game. This is all about her, right? This really is all about her.
Speaking of Sreyas, you want to transition us?
Let's do it. Hey, it's bowl season, fellas. It's not something we get to experience, have had the opportunity to experience very often. Hopefully we'll almost take it for granted from now on. That'd be fantastic. I think Mark Johnson came on the pod earlier and said that was the standard that he was told that CU was. It wasn't a matter of whether they're going to a bowl game. It's how good of a bowl game it was that we're going to. But for 2024, we are headed to a bowl. End of the season, 9-3, 7-2 in conference. Most likely going to go to a bowl game that has Big 12 and Pac-12 legacy tie-ins. And
Peggy, I am begging you to opt us out of the Alamo Bowl. If anyone can control it, please, God, not again the Alamo Bowl. I cannot do it. That was such a bad experience.
Let go of hell.
Let go of hell.
It's a great city.
Most people say,
It's a great
remember
city.
the Alamo. Chase has spent his life trying to forget the Alamo.
So
I would
getting dinner.
so much rather go to San Diego than back to San
I was
Antonio.
getting dinner with my family who's Iowa State fans, and they're like, "Oh, we have a history with the Alamo Bowl. Like, we know that bowl well." I'm like, No. CU has been to 2 bowl games in the past 20 years. Both of them were the Alamo Bowls, and both of them we got destroyed. So we have a special history with the Alamo Bowl. I'm not afraid of the Alamo Bowl. I think it could be a fun matchup because it'll probably be CU versus another Big 12 team. So probably BYU or whoever loses for ASU versus Iowa State, which would be kind of fun because you really make that statement. CU is the second best team in the Big 12, or you can maybe argue the best team in the Big 12. And then the other bowl that people are talking about that CU might fit into is the Holiday Bowl, which is the ACC versus the Big 12. Potentially a Miami matchup there. I know people would love to see. So, yeah, do you guys have a preference? I mean, you guys have a preference. Chase has a preference, obviously.
From
Holiday Bowl, Chase?
Please, God. And one's in San Diego. San Antonio is my second least favorite sand city. Like, it's just, I don't want to go back. I'd much rather play an ACC team. I get that the Big 12 would be fun, but go look at what the Big 12's record this season was against other P4 conferences. I want to go play another cupcake conference, especially the ACC. I mean, give me a break. The only thing better would be playing the SEC, which is a totally fraudulent conference, which hopefully we'll see here shortly in the playoff. Yeah.
Clip it. I'll stand by that too. The SEC, I hope, gets destroyed in the playoff.
They're horrible. Oh, their best team was Texas, who was in the Big 12 for like a million years.
Oklahoma State never won one game in the Big 12, but they beat an SEC team.
An SEC team that beat Tennessee, by the way. That wasn't just Arkansas beat Tennessee, so that wasn't nothing.
And if only we were in the SEC, we would have 3 quality losses, and ESPN would already be saying that we've qualified for the playoff, despite there being no evidence for that. But
we'd probably only have like 1 or 2 quality losses. I think we can get less losses in the SEC.
Yeah, that's such a good point. We could just do the Texas experience, and hopefully the Texas experience, not the Oklahoma experience. But regardless, I hope they hate it there. Texas clearly does not hate it there, but fraudulent conference. And I don't know. I just think the Holiday Bowl would be more fun for the fan base. All of our alumni are in California. Since we moved to or away from the Pac-12, it would be kind of cool to give throw a bone to our California alums that aren't going to get to go to conference games anymore in the foreseeable future. But in the grand scheme of things, we're in a bowl game, and you can't be upset about that. I know I kind of feel upset about it, but I will come to terms with the Alamo Bowl. And it's just a blessing to even be in a bowl game. So no reason to overthink it.
I'm going to split my statement here, because the destination that I want to go to most is definitely the Holiday Bowl. I love any excuse to go down to San Diego. One of my absolute favorite cities in the country. Great weather all year, great food, great vibes. Love going down there. I would love to spend my New Year's or almost my New Year's down there. But Alamo Bowl technically is the more prestigious bowl, technically, right? I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I believe it has a higher payout associated with it. Be good for the program. And you want to talk about an opportunity to really kill some cobwebs. We have not won a bowl game since 2004. So it's been 20 years since this program has won a bowl game. In 2002, we lost the Alamo Bowl to Wisconsin. 2016, you guys already talked about Oklahoma State. 2020, does that even count? The more time passes, the more I'm willing to just write off the 2020 season as something that just didn't happen. It was nice at the time to be like, oh, we're bowl eligible, blah, blah, blah. But after Nate Landman got hurt against Utah, whatever team showed up after that was not going to a bowl game. I'm sorry. If they finished out that season and ended up playing 12 games, they probably would have lost out, especially against like a good Pac-12 schedule. I think one of our 4 wins was against San Diego State too at home, which got rescheduled from USC. It was just completely fraudulent season, right? I think we all agree that was a fraudulent season. But that's 3 times where we've gotten kind of beat up in the Alamo Bowl. It's time. It's time to go air out some of those demons and get the job done. So Holiday Bowl against Miami would be awesome. Love going there. It's a great excuse to get down to SoCal and see some folks down there. But Alamo Bowl, I'm here for it. I'm here for letting go of hell fully and exercising some demons. What do you think, Topher?
We play both BYU and Iowa State next season on our schedule. Give me a team that we don't get to play very much. I want the Holiday Bowl with my entire heart and soul, because next year we just get beat the hell out of both of those teams anyways. I want to go beat a team that we don't get to play. That's just where I stand. I think it would just be more fun with the Holiday Bowl.
All right, with that, sorry, I'm checking my phone because I think there's recruiting news coming soon. I feel like Adam Schefter about to break it on the pod. No, there's no recruiting news. But with that, let's talk recruiting news because there was some big recruiting news Thanksgiving week. I'm sure most of you that are listening are well aware. But just to recap with everyone, on Thanksgiving night, I guess a couple days before, Shannon Sharp and Chad Ochocinco tweeted out that they'd be sharing some big news on their podcast and tagged Coach Prime. And it happened to be 4 commitments for the Buffs from 4 absolutely studs, 2 4-stars and 2 3-stars. But I think those 3-stars are underrated in my opinion. But just to go through the list, again, this was all the same evening on their podcast. So, like, what other school can do that? If you're a 3-star and you're going on Shannon Sharp's show to commit and announce your commitment, how cool is that? And they had a lot of time on the air too. It was like 10 minutes each guy at least, which was awesome. But sorry. But yeah, to run through the list, Carday Smith, offensive tackle. He was a USC decommit, absolute stud from Alabama. He's 6'5", 293. Again, 4-star and 247 as offers from USC, Auburn, Arkansas, Duke, among a bunch of other schools. He has offers pretty much anywhere he wants to go. Exciting just to rebuild that offensive line, and then also really exciting to rebuild the defensive line. This guy next up is a 4-star defensive lineman on the edge, London Merritt, decommitted from Ohio State to come over to the Buffs. And sorry, this was a guy that I didn't think would actually commit to the Buffs. I think we were kind of on the fence that if we would get him, he's an absolute playmaker from IMG Academy, same school as Jordan Seaton, Cash Cleveland, and some other recruits, some other commits that we have. But he's an absolute baller, 6'2", 250, a stud from IMG. Has offers from obviously Ohio State, North Carolina, Bama, Arkansas, among other schools. And then also 2 other guys committed that night, 2 3-stars, Alexander McPherson, defensive lineman. He's a 3-star. He's 6'5", 240. And I think he's underrated. He led IMG Academy in sacks this year. And for those of you that don't know, IMG Academy is the #1 high school for football. It's a boarding school where students from across the country will move to Bradenton, Florida to live on campus at IMG and just basically do nothing but football, essentially. So I think Alexander McPherson's a really good get. He was deciding between CU and NC State. And then the last guy, I don't think this guy's getting talked about enough at all. Quentin Gibson. He is a shorter wide receiver. He's 5'8", 165 pounds, out of North Crawley High School in Fort Worth, Texas. He's a 3-star, 87 grade on 247. His offer list isn't that impressive, but I think over the last couple months, it's actually exploded. Here, I'm getting it live here. Yeah, 247 doesn't have a ton of these offers. But from what I've seen and what I've heard, just even looking at his tape, he's the real deal. I think he has, oh man, I want to look this up to make sure I don't get it wrong, but I'm going to say it anyways, and I'll look it up after the fact. I think he has like 30 touchdowns this year in high school. Someone look that up for me while I'm doing this monologue. But he has exploded this year. He is a LaJohntay Wester 2.0, and I am really excited for him. He's going to be a playmaker. So I think he's a huge get, even though he's a 3-star. I think he really flew under the radar just because he's undersized. So Quentin Gibson, a name to watch out for. He could be one of Juju's weapons early. But in addition to high school recruiting, well, actually, before I shift gears here, the day before Thanksgiving, CU was ranked dead last in the Big 12 for recruiting for high school. In a matter of minutes on that podcast, when people committed to CU, we jumped to second in the Big 12 in the 247 rankings. And here's the best part. That's not even the best part. We had the least number of commitments in the Big 12, but yet we're second. Why is that? Because we're getting a ton of studs. CU's average rating on 247 for the recruits is at 89.27. That leads the Big 12. They're getting absolute ballers, and CU's setting themselves up for a really nice recruiting class, and hopefully some dominoes fall. I know the linebacker, NOB, Nathaniel, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Boateng.
Boateng, yep.
I think he went to IMG, right, guys? Do you guys know?
I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure he's an IMG linebacker, so trying to keep that IMG pipeline going. I think this football team has like at least 5 IMG players on this
He is
including
IMG.
Okay,
You're right.
including
Yep.
the commitments. So fingers crossed on that one. He's an absolute stud. He's a 5-star on Rivals, a 3-star on 3. If that's not suspicious, I don't know what is, but I will get into that. And then another huge stud to keep your eye out for is obviously Michael Carroll, 5-star offensive tackle, one of the best offensive tackles in the country. He is flirting with CU a bit. He came on an official visit and seemed to enjoy his visit. So Michael Carroll is a big name to watch out for. And then just really quickly, the portal season's coming. And I have heard through a couple of different
Multiple sources.
And I'm sure some of you listening have know these sources, but CU has a lot of money to spend in the transfer portal. And they are pretty confident that they're going to get an even bigger portal splash than they did last year. I'm talking like Ole Miss portal splash from last year. They are very confident that this portal season is going to be electric. So hold on, CU fans. Portal opens, I think, December 7th, and it's going to be a fun ride. Coach Prime tweeted, I think, while we were on this podcast, a post that says, "I'm not hard to find." He's gearing up for portal season, and it's going to be special. So lock in, Buff fans.
I'll tell you what, too. I'll add on to this before Topher has some stats to pull out real quick. This staff, the core staff that Prime has brought with him to every step of the way in his coaching journey, they identify talent. They're not just looking at stars. We know they're not just looking at stars because Cash Cleveland was a true freshman walk-on, and he actually made it onto Pro Football Focus's standouts for week 11. That the fact that he would even appear on a ranking like that for any game, that's a testament to having an eye for talent. You don't just suddenly randomly end up with a key contributor as a walk-on if you're just reeling in whatever fish that you can possibly get, right? They have a method to what looks like madness to the outside, but they have a method, a calculated method. And in this portal era, they are prioritizing the absolute best talent that they see. Again, not just going with what on 3 or whatever, sources or making up stars are saying. Like, what do my eyes say? Topher, give us those stats.
So Jake cited that he had 30 touchdowns. Not quite. He has 10 touchdowns, but in 3 games. He has 10 touchdowns in 3 games.
In 3 games. So he's on pace for 30. He's on pace
for 30.
So he has 10 total for the season?
He has 10 total for the season. He only played 3 games.
I was very far off, so I'm happy we fact-checked that.
But I want to be clear, right? To give credence to Jake's point, 3 touchdowns or 3 games and having 10 touchdowns is ridiculous. Like those are video game numbers. So this kid's talented. He can play. Very excited for the future of Buffs football, right? Like there's a lot of chatter that Prime is leaving. He's not leaving. He's here to stay. He's here to develop. He's here to build the empire that is Colorado football. And he said it before, you better get me now because this is the worst I'm going to be. And that's just the way it's got to be. But something cool happened to us in Folsom. Chase tells the story.
Yeah, and I'm glad we could have Topher join us from the world of AOL Internet because that's pretty rough. But anyway, huge thing for us, I guess, at Folsom this week. We were recognized for the first time. Shout out to whoever that was who came up and said hi to me. We've never had that before. If you see us at games, we're Topher is certainly plenty obnoxious. I'm sure you'll see him. I know, Sreyas, you have either season basketball tickets or at least you're going to several games. Topher will be going to several games. For whatever reason, Jake doesn't go to any games. So anyway,
not true.
But anyway, it really, it made our day. It was kind of amusing because it was Topher, Sreyas, and I all standing there, and he only walked up to me and talked to me. So I guess Topher and Sreyas were invisible. Maybe it's my great physique that makes me more recognizable. But anyway, shout out for that, and pretty cool. Looking forward to I think a lot of us will be going to the bowl game. So if you see us, come say hi. We love meeting other Buffs fans. But with that being said, a little bit of a longer episode this week. We'll have another episode coming up when we know who our bowl matchup's going to be, do our predictions at that time. But thank you everyone for watching. Please give us a follow on all the platforms. we've YouTube has set an impossible goal, so we want to keep making progress. If you could subscribe to us there, but anyway, we really appreciate it, and let's go Buffs.
Let's go Buffs, baby.
Go, Buffs.
Go Buffs.